Hello and welcome to another week of Sambo iRacing. It's week 13, so we've got a top tips video from the Formula Vee. It's not going to be as long as the racecraft video, only about 13 and a half minutes. But who am I and why should you care what I say? Well, you don't have to listen to anything I say. I am a bit of a V specialist. I don't claim to be an alien, but I have managed to get my iRating up to about 5,500, and I have finished in the top 5 in the world in the last 3 seasons, including a podium this time round, all by implementing the tips that I'm going to run through with you today. So grab a cuppa, grab a beer, whatever it is, and let's start this. Okay, first off, standing starts, very simple, very straightforward, up to 4,800 revs. Wait for the lights to go green, increase pressure on the throttle, and drop the clutch at the same time. If you want to go into it in further depth, top right hand of your screen now, I have a video on standing starts, but those of you that follow my channel and watch my races from the back to the front on a weekly basis will see I do the exact same start every single time, and it usually is worth a couple of places. Right, next up, gears. We're going to be sticking to third and fourth gear for 99% of the time in the Formula Vee. We only drop it down to second on about 5 corners in the schedule. That was one of them that I've just shown you. Next thing you also need to remember is when you are going down from fourth to third, only ever change down to third when you are ready to get back on the throttle. Tip number 3, lift off oversteer, or you may have heard of off-throttle oversteer. It's something that we experience every single time in the Formula Vee. So what does it mean? It means that because the V is quite short, because of the way that it's geared, and because the fact that the engine is in the rear, and therefore the weight is in the rear, if we completely come off the throttle rapidly in a high-speed corner like this one here at turn 5 at Laguna Seca, it's a little bit like applying a handbrake into the corner. So you lose your rear and it can kick out. Best way to avoid that is to just maintain some maintenance throttle at sort of 10 to 15% just to keep yourself settled. Top tip number 4, and possibly the most important skill that you can learn to improve your lap times in any motor racing vehicle. How it works. You're going to brake as hard as you can in a straight line, and then you're slowly going to release the brake pressure as you turn in towards the apex. As you get to the apex, you should be just coming off the brake and going back on the throttle. Ideally, your telemetry inputs will look exactly like mine are there in the bottom left of the screen. So we're trying to make it look like a right-angled triangle if possible. I'll now show you, I do the exact same technique going into turn 1 here at Laguna Seca. How does it improve our speed? Well, it allows you to balance the car, maintain the balance of the car throughout the corner. You're going to be able to maintain a higher speed, which is massively important in a car like this, which is a momentum car. You're going to optimize the racing line. You're going to improve your tire utilization. You're going to reduce the heat that you're putting into it, and it's going to enhance your stability throughout the corner. It's really, really important. It's something that you must practice. And if you can get yourself a $200 load cell pedal, if you're just using a magnometer at the minute, I would say it's worth it. Tip number 5, brake earlier than you think. Why is this important in the Formula Vee? Well, unlike a Formula 1 car, you've got very, very little horsepower to get you out of trouble. So you want to try and maintain the highest minimum speed throughout a corner as possible, and you want to be getting back on the throttle as early as possible. So by braking a little bit less and a little bit earlier, it allows us to maintain this higher speed. You're not going to be losing your car going into the corner, and it means that you're going to be able to get on the throttle, as I'm showing you here, much, much earlier, 3 or 4 car lengths earlier than the driving line would have you believe you can do. So try it. If you look at telemetry, you'll see that the fastest guys tend to brake a little bit earlier than the guys that are going slower. It's sort of counterintuitive, but it is something that you should practice and you should try and maximize the use of. Tip 6, and a nice easy one. Be aware of the draft. The draft in the Formula Vee can be our biggest friend. It can also be our biggest enemy. What does it mean? Well, because of the aerodynamics of the V, when you get within 1.2 seconds of the car ahead, you are going to be drafting that car. That means that on the straight, you will be going faster than them because they are punching a hole in the air ahead of you. It's a little bit like the V's DRS system if you are a fan of F1. Use it to make your overtakes, and use it and be aware of it when you're looking to defend. If someone gets within 1.2 seconds of you, they are going to be moving faster than you on the straight. So if you're wanting to get away from people, 1.2 seconds is the magic number that we're looking for, and the same if you're trying to chase people down. Be aware of it, use it. Tip 7. I do feel this should almost go without saying, but I've been in a lot of races and I know that it does need to be said. Look, we all think we're Max, we all think we're Fernando or Lewis Hamilton, we all want to do an overtaking maneuver that we'd get on a highlight reel, in an F1 show. In reality, if we try that, most times it's going to be a coin flip as to whether or not we survive. It may not even be our fault, but we end up with a netcode. The best place to overtake, if you're on a track that has a straight, is utilising the draft, overtake on the straight, make sure that you're through it, and then the corner is yours, you can move on and try and get away. It's the best way to make overtakes in iRacing. Don't be silly. Tip number 8, and it's an important one, practice different lines. So we all practice for the qualifying lap, we practice the racing line, that's absolutely fine. However, at a track like Laguna, where there is no long straight to make you move, a lot of the time, if you are going to make a pass, you'll be alongside someone for quite a while, and you'll be coming up to a hard turn such as the corkscrew here off your normal racing line. I want to be over to the right hand side. Because I've practiced this line in free testing by myself, it allows me to brake at the right time for that particular overtaking move and ensure that I'm not spinning off and crashing into somebody. Make sure that you get used to racing off the racing line. Tip number 9, and I'm sure you guys are already well aware of this unless you're qualifying P1 and top split and driving away, watch out for hazards. I go into this at greater detail in the racecraft video, which you'll find a link to at the end of this video. It just basically means don't trust anyone, always expect the unexpected. On the inside here of turn 2, I see 2 cars coming closer together, so I'm giving it a wide berth. I see there's contact. I immediately change my steering to the left to avoid them, and I decide to stay as wide as possible throughout this corner. Because of that, I just missed this orange car that's had contact and spins round, and it's only because I didn't trust them and I expected them to crash that I was able to avoid the issues. So watch out for hazards, trust no one, always expect everyone to crash. Top tip number 10, use a button clutch if you can. Now obviously if you have a pedal set that already has a clutch pedal, continue to use it, that's absolutely fine. But if not, do try and reduce your reliance on auto clutch or auto blip because it's killing your lap times. Around 1/10 of a second per gear change compared with a full fast speed gear change. So if you don't have dual clutch, no problem, just assign yourself a clutch button in the controls and get used to using it. Give yourself a week, it really will be worth it. Tip 11, the driving line will slow you down. As you can see here, going through the final corner at VAR full, the driving line is telling me to brake and it's only a lift. So as you can see here, it's saying I need to be applying brake. There's no brake needed. I can always tell when I'm following someone that's using the driving line because they often brake where they don't have to. The driving line will also make you take the long way around the course rather than the fastest route that I'm showing you here. It's going to slow you down. Once you've got used to learning a track and you know when it turns left or right or anything like that, brilliant. Take the driving line off. It's not going to speed you up. Tip 12, use all available track, and that does include the curbs. So I'm showing you here the middle and final sectors of Rudskogen, and as you can see on every single apex I'm using the full curbs available to me. Now I can always tell a new driver without even looking at their IR when I'm in a league race or whether I'm in a public practice session before a race, simply because the amount of people I see that don't utilize the full width of the track, they just stick to the asphalt, they stick inside the white lines. Use the full distance. I'm right on the edge there. Use the full distance, including the curbs. The curbs are there to be used. Make use of them. It's not an exploit. It's not a hack. It's what every single racing car driver does in every single race. Make sure you use the curbs to the fullest of the extent. It really will speed you up. You're increasing your entry speed. You're increasing your exit speed. Do make sure you use it. It's hugely important. Tip 13. I thought everyone was aware of this, but looking at Reddit and other social media, lots of people seem not to be aware. Use active reset. So go into controls on your wheel rim, set up a button for a start point and for a reset point, and this will allow you to practice far more efficiently. So what I always do when I'm starting my lap in practice, I set a restart point just before the start finish line, and then it means that if I go into turn one and I have an issue like here, I wash out, I think, oh, that's no good, I can just reset it rather than going through a whole lap. Press the reset button, try it again, see how I do. I'll lose it this time round, no problem. I can just reset, start over again, and once I nail that corner, I can continue. Now, you can do this at the start-finish line of a lap, or you can do it just to practice a single corner. Make use of it. It really will improve your speed. Tip 14, use overlays. Now, this is personal preference, but I like the added detail. I like more information. I like to be able to see where other cars are on track. On my relatives, I like to be able to see what license class and what iRating other cars have. The more information, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I use Race Labs. I think it's great. Try it for yourself, see what you think. Next up, cold tyres are fast tyres. Now, most people aren't aware of this, and it's true only of the Formula Vee. But the Formula Vee, unlike every other car on the racing simulation, a cold tyre is a fast tyre. Now, it might be slightly slippier. You may have slightly more chance of losing the rear end, but it's going to be worth a couple of tenths in the first sector if you go slower in your outlap. Now for the bonus. Use telemetry. I can't tell you how important this was for me in improving my lap times when I started out. First 3 or 4 months, didn't use anything. After that, started getting some coaching, used VRS, was able to compare my laps. Then I downloaded Garage 61, which is completely free of charge. You can compare your laps against everyone that's on there. There's tens of thousands of people. All of my laps are on there, completely public. Use it, compare where you're losing speed. It's a real help. And that's it. 15 top tips plus a bonus. I'll see you again next time. I've been Sambo iRacing. Thanks for watching.